We continue learning about communication and language by first talking about the properties of language. We talk about the arbitrariness of language, which is the relationship between the strings of sounds that make up words, and the meaning of these words is arbitrary. For example, if we take MP, NT, and LD, and we can use those to make words out of them, adding them at the end of a word, for example, camp, rent, or cold. However, PM, TN, and DL are combinations that are not possible in English. We look at children, for example, they learn to attach meanings with words. I love you in English evokes the same emotions as te amo in Spanish and nakapinda in Swahili. The next property of language that we consider is its multimedia potential. Messages can be transmitted through a variety of ways through writing, gestures, and body movements, sight, Morse code, odors, and touching. Even the internet is possible because of language's multimedia potential. The next property of language is its discreteness. That's the fact that language is made of discrete, meaning individual and recombinable elements. For example, the red house is on the hill. But I also can say on the hill is the red house. And I can also say the house is red. And I can also say on the house, just taking again those recombinable elements. The next property of language is its productivity. We can create new expressions that are comprehensible to other speakers because of this particular property. For example, I can say my dog Briscoe makes strawberry-filled telephone poles for a living. Now I know this is a nonsensical statement, but it reflects several things. My dog Briscoe, telephone pole, and we know what strawberry-filled also refers to. The last property of language is called displacement. Displacement is describing things and events that are not present. That's possible because of the symbolic nature of language. We can talk about things past, like dinosaurs, or even things in the future. Or we can even talk about things that people don't think exist, such as ghouls or goblins or ghosts or other things like that. But displacement, the displacement property of language, allows that to take place. Language is very diverse. There are as many as 7,000 discrete languages in the world. Nearly 2,000 native languages are spoken on the continent of Africa alone. 95% of the world's people speak fewer than 100 of those approximately 7,000 languages. It's estimated that 90% of all of the languages will be extinct in 100 years. Mandarin Chinese speakers account for about 20% of people on the earth. And English, Hindi, Spanish, and Russian account for about 45%. But as you can see, language is very diverse. And while we see, unfortunately, a lot of languages dying out, there are efforts underway around the world to preserve languages, to try and keep those as we can. Ethnolinguistics looks at the relationship between language and culture. We take two cultures here, the Sami and the Maasai. And in these languages, things that are very important to them, they have a lot of words for that, to describe that. For example, among the Sami, the things that we know is that snow, because of the climate that they live in, is very important, and that they have over 200 words that describe various forms of snow. And these are just a few samples. With the Maasai, cattle are very important to their culture, and they have over 200 words to describe and that are related to cattle. Sociolinguistics is concerned with how we use language in social context. And one of the aspects of that we'll learn about now, which is called code switching. Code switching is something we all do. How and where do you code switch? The practice of adapting one's language and more depending upon the social situation is what we call code switching. What is said and how it is said are often influenced by variables such as the age, sex, and relative social status of the people involved.
All right, kids, summer break is here. Notice how I didn't call it summer vacation because, for obvious reasons, we ain't going nowhere this year. It's a safe and responsible thing to do. Now, without a trip, there's no need for us to debate whether or not we're going to a beach and why I'm afraid of large bodies of water. I don't like the beach. I'm glad I don't live near one. Sand is just glorified dirt. Ocean water is gross, and I don't see how anyone finds either of those things relaxing. And don't you dare say it's because I can't swim. Whatever the case, at least you've had the chance to go on vacations. Growing up, my mom didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't take a lot of trips. And my mom worked full time, so my summer breaks were spent with babysitters or at my friend's house. After weeks of talking smack to my friends, eating what their families ate, and hearing their parents refer to my mom by her name, I would use way too casual language when talking to my mom. I would ask her if we can eat McDonald's like 4 times a week, and I would try to call her by her first name. Not to be disrespectful, I mostly thought it was funny. I quickly found out that it wasn't. I'm getting way too far into this, but it seemed like my mom would only say 3 things to me all summer. She would tell me that she ain't boo-boo the fool. She would ask me if I had McDonald's money, and she would remind me that she ain't one of my little friends. If you know what it's like to change the way you communicate based on where you are and who you're talking to, then you understand today's topic, code switching.
I just flipped the switch.
Code switching started as a study of multilingual people alternating the language they were speaking from sentence to sentence or conversation to conversation, depending on who they were talking to and where they were talking at the time. In America, code switching is possibly best understood in the context of ethnic minorities trying to fit into the norms, customs, and standards set by the majority. But it's not limited to that. It can go both ways.
New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So it's more than just switching your language. It also includes switching dialects, slang, African American vernacular, and alternating it with standard English. Pair this with something like how we dress, how we do our hair, and even how we greet one another. You know, back when we used to shake hands, we would do that with some, but for the select, we would dap up. Some people will get waves, kinfolk get the nod. I made a video about this. Now, people are most comfortable in their own homes, and they find their families, groups of friends, and their neighborhoods to be safe spaces where they can be themselves. School and work can also be safe spaces, but what do you do when you're one of very few brown people at a primarily white institution and your accent or the way you speak makes others question your intelligence? What happens when you're one of few black people at work and how you dress or the way you do your hair is seen as ghetto or ratchet? Well, there are some who do it to advance the culture, who have made different forms of blackness and brownness more mainstream, which makes social mobility easier for minorities. So when your lateral moves become vertical in order to move upward to the next level, to get from the classroom maybe to the boardroom, you keep your verbiage buttoned up. You put on a metaphorical suit and tie to be more suitable. Not that there's anything even wrong with what we do and who we are, but we present ourselves in such a way in order to assimilate, albeit not fully to those with a higher status, the majority, or just expectations. We present ourselves differently to fit our surroundings. And I'm not trying to suggest that all code switching is intentional. A lot of it is involuntary. Before I continue, some will question if code switching is necessary. A better question is, why don't people feel that they can be themselves in certain places? It's hard carving out new safe spaces for diverse art, culture, and people. It's one thing to have a diverse setting where you're the only one who looks like you. It's another to have inclusion where you're a part of the structure. And it's yet another thing to have a sense of belonging where your voice can be heard. Again, it only seems natural to change according to your environment. For instance, going to the beach. I don't want to be there whatsoever, but I at the very least put on swimming trunks. Not necessarily to fit in, but just so I don't stand out. Wearing what I'm most comfortable in would make me uncomfortable in that environment. Also, I wouldn't go into the wilderness in the same stuff that I would wear to the beach. Speaking of the wilderness, we love seeing animals who can seamlessly blend in with every environment or make the new environment their environment, especially when it's narrated by David Attenborough. But when you don't look like or sound like David Attenborough, well, no one does. It may be in your best interest to try to speak the King's English. Good thing Big Snoop narrates wildlife videos now.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get real cold up in here right now.
What we know to be true in nature and in the wild is also true for people. Being able to adapt will help you survive. By survival, I mean getting the job, their promotion, or just not being disqualified due to an attribute that can be turned on and off. Like a switch. Sure, code switchers will change our speech, maybe even our clothes, maybe even how we greet people. Hopefully not our hair. None of that changes who we are. As I close, code switching is a skill. It may not be exactly like speaking two different languages, but I guess it's close. Just know that when using this skill, your mother will be able to see through all of it. She ain't Boo Boo the Fool, and she ain't one of your little friends. And we're gonna be alright. Haircut that's black.
When we consider the fact that most messages are sent and received without words, up to 70% are received by hand gestures, body, posture, touching, facial expressions, eye contact, space usage, sense, and even the way that we walk or our gait. Kinesics is the study of communication through body movements and facial expressions. Let's talk a bit about language and perception. Euphemisms make things appear much better than they are. But ask yourself, how much better do these unemployed people feel because they were outplaced or dehired rather than fired? And we look at the fact that we have ever-increasing new information technology. The new forms of technology are changing the way that we communicate. The idea of tweeting, TikTok videos, instant messaging, direct messaging, and the like are examples. We've changed our perceptions of when people should respond to us in the case of text messages or emails because of technology. And I'd like to end with how 70 people reveal how they say hello and goodbye in their country.
Hello.
Namaste.
Sayonara.
Arrivederci.
You can either say good day, kia ora, what's up, what going on, big up yourself, hey buddy,
What's going on? Or you say hi, go.
what going on,
Wagwan.
g'day,
Hey.
hey, hey, hi, hello, 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 hello,
أهلا بيك.
Dadile.
안녕,
Anchi.
ahoy, ni hao,
Tere.
Labas.
Yiri, привет, привет,
Привit.
Bonjour.
bonsoir,
Salut.
Xin ciao.
Ciao.
Zdravo.
Здравей.
sveiki,
Shalom.
Salam.
salam,
Salim.
assalamu alaikum,
Kamerjoba.
konnichiwa, merhaba,
Marhaba.
mo, moi,
Just.
bună ziua,
Sawadika. Saubona.
Yasu. Hello, Jambo or Habari?
Habari.
Hola.
Hola.
hola, hola,
Hola.
Adios.
Adios. Adio.
好的，再见，拜拜，
Пока.
tschüss, hey du,
Nahomdis. Alvida.
moi moi, papa, hoşça kal, oraya kila,
Khuda hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Masalam.
Lagon.
Tibi kata.
안녕, sabo,
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Naschledanou.
uzredzēšanos,
Kadaga. Kwaheri.
Dui.
doviđenja,
Dikja. Bye.
Tambek.
Kambe.
selamat datang, salamati,
Salagahe.
dag,
Bye.
Au revoir. Bonsoir.
see ya,
All right. I see you.
goodbye, see you later, see you later, catch you later,
I see you later.
Later.
bye,
Bye bye.
bye,
Bye.
goodbye, bye.